Actually, we have today a very interesting scientific session and a very important chairperson, Professor Shawky Salem. Actually, we are so lucky to have Professor Shawky Salem among us today, and it's an occasion to say thank you for him for all his support to ICIL Africa since the very beginning, and since we started a year and a half ago when we announced the conference, when we started to have the scientific committee, the submissions, the abstracts. Dr. Shawky was very, very, very supportive. Until now, he's very supportive. Thank you, Professor, for all the support you have provided us and all the assistance you have provided us. Professor of Information Technology at Alexandria University and Chairman of Alex Center for Multimedia and Libraries, ACML-Egypt. Actually, he will introduce to us very important speakers. I'll give him the floor and have a lovely scientific session. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, the interpretation devices are available at the information desk. If you need it, please don't hesitate to ask for it, whether from us or from the information desk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Maha, for this brief introduction. I'm delighted and honored to be here in Library of Alexandria and to chair this session. This is the second session of the conference. We have another parallel session in the other room. This session contains about 5 papers, and I was expecting to have the speakers beside me, but I think one of the paper have only 3 speakers and one have 2 speakers. It means that we have many speakers. We cannot provide chairs for them. Then we'll call the speakers from the floor, and he can come and present his paper. Unfortunately, our first speaker apologized, and he's not here, and this will give us more chance to have more time for each speaker. In spite of 20 minutes, he will have 25 minutes. Then the first speaker will be Dr. Christine N. Stewart from United Arab Emirates. Dr. Christine Stewart is an associate professor and the information literacy coordinator at Zaid University. Contributor, author, and editor of UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Curriculum for Educators and Learners, and serves on the editorial board of the Journal of Education for Library and Information Science.
It's very nice to be here, and apologies I'm not there in person. I took ill last week, so they had advised me not to travel. So unfortunately, I'm not there today in person, but thank you so much for your time today. And yeah, I'll share a little bit about some work that myself and a colleague have been working on. So in this presentation, we'll review the meta-literacy framework and draw connections about some debates about AI and student learning, present 2 case studies that highlight the possibilities for creative, engaged, and critical learning through the use of AI. So that will be with Dr. Kristen Schuster, who is my co-author. And then we'll discuss strategies that both librarians and instructors can develop to use the meta-literacy framework within their own practices. So meta-literacy is a comprehensive understanding of information to critically evaluate, share, and produce content in multiple forms. This never have been more relevant than it is now. Meta-literacy is often used in conjunction with the ACRL framework standards for information literacy. And here are this is a diagram of it so that you're able to kind of pull from this, I guess, throughout the presentation. It includes domains of learning, It includes behaviors. It includes learning domains, the roles, characteristics of learners, and goals and learning objectives. So ways that Kristen and I have used this, this model is to encourage students to develop reflective practices. We've also found that this empowers both students as well as faculty members throughout this process. These reflective practices enable both students as well as faculty members to challenge their previous assumptions about a student's learning. We've used it to foster participation within collaborative learning environments through discussions about their knowledge and skills. This is often through scaffolded learning activities from my own and Kristen's experience. And we've used it to empower students to practice independent and self-guided learning to assist them in identifying skills and concepts that they may want to develop. So I've got some audio recording right now of my co-author that I'm going to share for her slide. This is her part of the case study.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristen, and I'm sorry I can't be here in person today, but I'm really excited to discuss some of the strategies I've developed to integrate meta-literacy into my approach to using AI in my digital humanities curriculum. So I'm a lecturer in digital humanities. I currently work at the University of Southampton, but prior to that, I was working at King's College London. And while I was working at King's in London, I had this really lovely opportunity to sit down and brainstorm with students what some of the barriers they had to really kind of grappling with the kinds of technicalities and kinds of, implications of AI as, large language models and kinds of faster and faster data processing. And one of the things that I learned was that students have a lot of really creative and insightful questions, but what needs to happen for those questions to really kind of become foregrounded and used to kind of guide discussions was for me as an instructor to kind of check the assumptions that I would have about what students want to learn, how they're going to approach learning, and what kinds of activities or kinds of challenges they might really respond to in a classroom setting, where as an American, I'm used to a lot of give and take and questions, but in the United Kingdom, that's not really the kind of standard or normal kind of classroom setting. It's much more of a lecture kind of based setup. And then on top of that, to also kind of check and reflect on the assumptions I have about what students know coming into a classroom, no matter how much they've prepared for class, no matter how keen they are to learn, there might always be a kind of gap between what I've been taught, what I've been kind of accustomed to prioritizing as kind of important information, and what my students are going to be prioritizing and what kinds of past experiences they might have to kind of situate their kinds of learning strategies. So all of these opportunities kind of frame my approach to thinking about the digital humanities and have done for a long while, because as my first bullet point kind of summarizes, is that there are many different ways to engage with the digital humanities in research and practice, depending on what branch of the humanities you're coming from, what kinds of technical expertise you're interested in developing or even have to hand, right? What kinds of funds you have available, and what kinds of collections and digital assets you might be able to kind of bring in and negotiate and manipulate in your research. So all of this is a context for negotiating different kinds of priorities and expectations. And I found that meta-literacy is a really useful model for doing this, and then developing case studies where I can then kind of articulate to students how I'm practicing, teaching and what I would like to kind of accomplish in each of the lessons that I'm delivering. And so a lot of that comes down to scaffolding, right? This idea that you start small and allow students to problem solve together. And That's not always easy to do, especially when you only have a 45-minute class session. But in this particular example that I'll talk through in a moment, it was quite successful. And I learned a lot from my students. And we were able to kind of mutually negotiate how we were comfortable situating AI in our classrooms. And so this has absolutely nothing to do with ChatGPT, but it does have to do with the kinds of politics and ethics of developing large language models. My students were in the process of learning how to use TEI, Text Encoding Initiative, and they were really kind of stuck on this idea that you have to encode every single word, every single line, every single piece of punctuation. They were getting really bogged down and frustrated with this process, particularly since we were asking them to work with materials that had been translated from Spanish into English and had a very particular kind of historical significance. So you'll see on the right-hand side of this slide, there's a screen grab of early modern Spain. And below that, which is a digital humanities project that some of my colleagues at King's have worked on for many years. And below that, we have a list of diary entries from Christopher Columbus. Now, my students, most of them being Chinese at the time, were kind of marginally aware of Christopher Columbus, but he hadn't played the same kind of historical kind of role in their kinds of history classes, both in undergraduate and in previous kinds of master's classes that they had taken. So they were really struggling to understand why they should be putting so much effort into this piece of work when they didn't kind of have the baseline knowledge to really identify names, events, and places. So here there was an opportunity to say, well, let's start practicing kinds of asking questions and seeing how we can search for this information in encyclopedias, and then even kind of develop a cache of web pages, possibly even journal articles or excerpts from Google Books that we might be able to make as kinds of reference materials for quick guides so that we can make quicker and quicker decisions the more and more comfortable we become with the language being used in this diary entry that we're working on. And so my students then had the kind of foresight and kinds of cheeky insight to ask, it's like, well, why should we care about Christopher Columbus, right? As a large language model, who's going to be asking questions about Columbus? And so my response was to ask them to read a bit more carefully, kind of in feminist, historical, and anti-colonial kinds of entries on blogs, on even Wikipedia. And slowly they became very, very kind of, energized. And this stemmed from the fact that they were angry that Columbus, right, is a very, very problematic and contentious historical figure. So then they were able to start asking themselves, do we encode every single line in this diary and make it completely searchable and kind of interoperable with linked data and machine learning kinds of algorithms? Or do we prioritize highlighting the facts that make us most passionate about providing access to this information? So there was a give and take around what we assume AI can do for us in terms of dumping information onto our screens and then synthesizing answers that help us kind of go confidently and answer questions, or if we need to take a step back and start asking more critical questions about what we hope to learn and how AI can help us sift and sort information, but only if we understand the biases and prior knowledge and goals of the person who has organized and managed that information for us. So it was a 45-minute discussion that turned into a very fruitful learning moment between myself and my students, and helped them think about how they might move forward in the digital humanities, contributing to large language models, and then also critical coding and encoding initiatives.
So in Kristen's example, it shows how she's applied a meta-literacy model within her class. And what I'm going to share now is, this is something that Kristen and I published a couple of years ago based on work at our respective universities. And so what she's described is taking meta-literacy as a pedagogical model and then integrating it with other pedagogical models, such as learning-oriented assessments and constructive alignment. So within this is how we have been scaffolding our instruction for the last few years, and it's really evolved, obviously, based on advances in technology as well, and how we, as well as our students and the world, are using technology. There's a really heavy collaborative element of this, and so assessment tasks and learning activities are moved through learning while enabling metacognitive experiences and encouraging reflection. So clearly identifying connections between what you're teaching and the learning activities is providing an opportunity for students to discuss their learning as an ongoing practice. And then recognizing these metacognitive experiences that students are encountering throughout. Just a moment. And so this metacognitive aspect here is one of my, I think, what is most crucial about all of this, in that it's connecting different learning learner domains, such as the cognitive, affective, the behavioral, in order to foster this self-reflection and this self-regulation of skills and abilities. And this is enabling learners to adapt problem-solving strategies by reflecting on their past experiences and their emotions to monitor their learning. This relates to my work. I'm the information literacy coordinator at Zayed University in the Library and Learning Commons. I'm based on the Abu Dhabi campus, but I work for both campuses. And in my work, this involves working with course coordinators, department chairs within colleges, as well as librarians to develop curriculum where we integrate information literacy into courses through one-shot instructional sessions. A large part of this is embedded within general education at the university. And this can vary greatly, but between our two campuses, we can have anywhere from 13 sections of a particular class up to 60, just depending on the course, whether it's in general education. And that's something that's evolved greatly over the years. One thing I really emphasize, because I do work directly with colleges, and I'm located in the library, is helping to negotiate some of both faculty's anxieties about technology use in the classroom, as well as students. A big part of that obviously has to do with concerns over things like plagiarism. So what I wanted to share here were my experiences. We started offering AI literacy within general education and the colleges in spring 2023. And the images that I have on this screen are from an art a course. It's an upper division research methodology course in creative arts and enterprises. And because I am communicating with all of these stakeholders, students, colleges, librarians, there's always different ideas about what should be allowed in the classroom. And so a lot of these interactions have been an anxious professor will approach me. They'll want to have a conversation with their students, but they won't quite want to. They're not quite sure exactly what they'd like to allow in the course in regards to AI, how to approach that. And so we've had some really great examples, some successful examples. We've also, of course, had lots of learning curves kind of thrown at us. And one thing that I always have to emphasize, not just to faculty members within the colleges, but also to my colleagues in the library, is that we want students to use AI ethically, efficiently, and to their benefit. And so whenever I'm coordinating these lesson plans and including AI within them, it's not that I want students to think, oh, AI isn't working, this isn't a good tool, or to have them overly concerned about certain elements. So it's not actually to demonize the technology at all. And sometimes I think initially, at least, many librarians were like, oh, wow, we broke ChatGPT, we showed them it doesn't work, that's really great. And it's like, no, I think we've missed kind of part of this connection. It's we're not in competition with this technology right now. We're really trying to help students think critically about how they're using it. And so within this example that I'm showing you, students in this upper division research methods course in creative enterprises, what I tasked them with were to work in groups. And we use different AI tools within these different groups in the classroom. There are about 4 students in each group. And the idea was they would use these large language models, and it was to create a visualization of what our class looked like. And after each round, we had 4 rounds. After each round, each group would share the image that they generated to the rest of the class. The caveat that they couldn't make a whole bunch of changes, they just had to show, here's what your image looks like. And this is the first image that one of the groups had created. And I hope it's large enough for everyone to see the details. But essentially, it is a group of men wearing kandoras. Don't know if you can see the detail, but their faces basically look incredibly similar. They have the exact, I mean, everything is just to a T, very, very similar. They're not exact duplicates of each other, but pretty much. And there's also, you won't be able to see this, but there's a woman in the background who's also wearing the male traditional kind of Emirati dress. This is relevant because 98% of our students are Emirati. So that was the first round. And within each round, we had some discussion questions. And so the first one was, do these images reflect you as students? Does this reflect our class? And then as an entire class, we would discuss this and students would bring up different things. And because we were talking about, really individual as well as group representations, there were some really strong reactions to this initially. Another kind of caveat is Zayed University was founded as a women's university in the UAE. This year, we did fully desegregate. At this time, there was 1 male student in that class, but the rest of them were female. And so, but they hadn't specified gender.
Dr. Stewart,
and
you
so,
have only 5 minutes.
Okay. And so with each round, students were able to kind of discuss and reflect on these images that were being shared. So this happened in 4 rounds, and we used both positive and negative prompting in order to engage students in these discussions, telling it basically what we desired to have within the images and also what we didn't want to have in the images. And each image gave us new things to talk about. Sometimes it was representation. The first image had brought up, oh, is this maybe a bias in gender within the data? The third image, which really had gotten a knee-jerk reaction because in that image, the student is wearing a crucifix. And so this led students to ask, where would this come from? What is going on? And so we were able to talk about out of distribution, meaning, referring to this data that is significantly different from training the data that an AI model was trained on. And so with each kind of rendition, we got to talk about different things. Sometimes it was representation, sometimes it was bias, sometimes it was data literacy. And then also in this particular class, because they are creators, and all of our students are creators, but being from creative enterprises, they started to ask questions too about how can I contribute and make these AI models more representative of who I am. And then also on the flip of this, what happens if I'm a creator and I upload things that I create to these models? What happens to, for example, my intellectual property? So there were a lot of different kind of experiences, metacognitive experiences that happened within the classroom, and different aspects of information literacy or just literacy in general that were being explored. Something that was really exciting about this is I've transferred these examples now to the College of Natural and Health Sciences at the university, to Communication and Media Sciences, as well as our Technological Innovation College. So we've rolled out to 4 different colleges in addition to the general education. And a big part of this is even if they are using AI to generate text, oftentimes using examples where they're generating images or manipulating images, it's something they can see. So they won't necessarily see or read errors in data when they're looking at text-based output, but they did really react to seeing it visually. And so this may have been Stable Diffusion that this group was using, but it made them think more about even generating text and the way that they use AI. And that can be easily adapted to different majors, different interests, and also their future roles and responsibilities as information producers and sharers, as well as consumers. Some of our main strategies for integrating them, just based on these two cases, are how important it is to share learning outcomes and prompts in advance. So the idea is give students time to prepare for class, have materials that help structure their learning as they're entering, and develop artifacts that can help with revision and studying, and definitely make time for group work and discussions. Allow students the time to learn, engage, and even lead within the classroom. And ask leading questions. Ask questions and let them answer. It's better than that old lecture model. Kristen had 45 minutes in class, but it was a semester-long class. When I teach and when our librarians are teaching in these classes, they have an hour and 20 minutes, and it's a one-shot. So sometimes that's the only time they'll see those students in that semester. And so, kind of show up prepared, and help your students show up prepared as well, and make it engaging, because they will engage and they'll become more passionate than I think they maybe had originally imagined, especially when I think of one-shot instruction and the library. Help them think more critically about these things, and then they'll draw their own conclusions on how maybe the use of AI or any other digital objects may be used.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there today in person. I would have loved to have been there instead of sick at home. But thank you so much. Please feel free to contact either of us. Yeah, I would love to discuss with some of you. I put a QR code there. It's just to my LinkedIn, because I'd really love to connect with some of you and also hear more. I'll be attending the sessions online, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stewart, for your paper. It is online paper, and excellent to receive it like that. If there any question, because she does not exist, she will not wait until the end of the session. If there is any question now, we can direct it to Dr. Stewart. Any question? Okay, thank you, Dr. Christine, for your presentation. It was excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Inshallah, I'll be able to come and visit everyone soon in Alexandria.
Hope so, yes.
All right, thank you.
Our next paper is by 3 champions. The title of the paper is Engage Scholarly Librarianship, Empowering with Youth Information Literacy and Instruction in Support of Everyday Life Information Needs at Huma, Stillefontaine, and Kokosui, Faucheville townships in the Northwest Province. A paper by 3 speakers. The first speaker is Ms. Dina Mashiani from South Africa. The second speaker is Dr. Matthew Moyo, South Africa. And the third speaker, Dr. Sabelo Shizvuina, South Africa. I don't want to give you a lot of time to introduce every person. Dina McGady is a senior manager outreach, projects and quality at Northwest University Library and Information Services. She holds a master's degree in information science from the University of South Africa and is currently pursuing a PhD at the same institution. Dr. Stabilo holds a Bachelor of Information Science honors degree, University of Pretoria, a Master's in Information Science, University of Pretoria, a Master in education and specialization in ICT, University of Cape Town, and PhD in information science from South Africa. He's responsible about the for information and learning services at Northwest University in South Africa. Our third champion speaker, Dr. Matthew, holds a master and doctoral degrees in information science in addition to graduate qualification in knowledge and information systems, management and leadership. He's chief director affiliated a number of professional organizations and boards, including serving as the general chair of the International Conference on Information Literacy, ICIL. Please.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm not one of the champions in the paper, but I'm one of the co-authors. My name is Lindy Mahlangu from the Northwest University in South Africa. The paper that we'll be presenting, as it was mentioned, engaged in scholarly librarianship, empowering youth through information literacy instruction in support of everyday life information needs in one of the two communities in Northwest, which is Kuma and Gokosi. And I have my co-presenter here, Ms. Dina Mashiani. Let's also recognize our other authors, which is Dr. Matthew Moyo, Dr. Sabelo Chizwina, and Mr. Marubini Ramabina. So the paper encompasses of the introduction and the background of the study, the objectives, the literature review, the methodology, and the findings. Information literacy is very important in accessing and evaluating information effectively, especially in today's rich information environment. I mean, most of us here come from different parts of the world. It is, however, by means of our ability to find and use information that we are gathered here today. So basically, everyone needs information to navigate their daily life. For this particular study, the focus group was the NEET group, of which NEET stands for Not in Employment, Education, or Training. So this particular group faces challenges such as economic hardships due to their disadvantaged backgrounds, educational barriers due to low academic achievement, and limited access to education. They also experience social exclusion due to lack of support, of network. I remember particularly when we got to this community, we asked to connect to the Wi-Fi. They said the Wi-Fi is only available in their community library, and it's hardly working. So the role of information literacy among this youth would be critical thinking, decision-making in their daily lives, and this will enable them to evaluate the credibility and the relevance of the information, and also identifying the fake news. Also, access to opportunities. Some of them have graduated, but they don't know which information retrieval platforms to go to apply, for example, for learnerships or for internships. Also, they don't know how to find information regarding their health. In today's digital age, information literacy includes the ability to use the digital tools and platforms. So with the literature we considered, we see it focuses on economic and educational interventions. However, there is a need for further investigation on how information literacy can be an effective tool for the NEET youth. The expected impact of the study is for the NEET to apply the skills acquired from the intervention trainings offered. So what is Science Shop? Science Shop is participatory research support, supporting civil society concerns. It's mostly associated with universities and NGOs. So the Northwest University joined universities such as the University of the Western Cape, University of Cape Town, Durban University of Technology, Cape Peninsula, and University of Pretoria. In South Africa, we are proud to say that we are the first ever library to participate in the Science Shop project. The background of the study. So the Science Shop is part of the Northwest University institutional project, and it focused on two communities in Kuma and Kokosi, which are based in the Northwest province. The Northwest University is a multi-campus institution in South Africa, which supports teaching and learning and research in 8 faculties. And the faculties that were involved in this project were the Faculty of Education, which was the project lead, and NWLIS as a partner. The EMS faculty, which is the Economic Management Sciences faculty, focused on CV writing skills for this particular group. And the Natural and Agricultural Sciences focused on tutoring skills for this particular group. And then the Faculty of Engineering focused on robotics. So this project also aligns with the strategic plan goal number 3, which is active citizenship. It also addresses the SDGs 4, which is quality education, SDG 10, reduced inequalities, and SDG 17, which is partnerships. The objectives of the study are exploring the everyday life information needs of the youth, identifying the gaps and opportunities in the information literacy training provided, and evaluating the impact of information literacy instruction of the youth. So the literature that we have reviewed focused on the impact of the pandemic on the NEET youth employment, the youth policy and needs, the perception of needs in literature, information literacy for NEET youth, and the barriers to information access for NEET youth, and the skills gap and socio-economic challenges. I'll allow my colleague to come and present the next part of the paper.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'll now focus on the next part of the presentation, which basically delved on the methodology, and also we will also report on the findings of the study as well. So basically, this was a mixed method study, which used focus groups and also a survey to collect data as well in the 2 communities in Kuma and also Falkville in the Northwest Province. The project also includes 3 phases. So the first phase is what we're actually sharing with you today, where we went to these 2 communities, collected data, just to find out in terms of their information literacy skills and also the gaps for us to be able to develop an intervention to address those gaps. And the third phase included the post-evaluation, where we wanted to ascertain the impact of the training that we had with this youth community. In terms of the population, basically it was the NEET youth in the 2 communities. We used convenience sampling across these 2 sites. We used semi-structured interviews for our focus groups, and of course we had to get ethical clearance as well, because the purpose is to also share these results with the larger community through our publication. So we are currently in the write-up process for this particular study as well. In terms of the findings based on the data that we collected, most of the youth are between 18 and 24 years old, which means that quite a number of the young people in our communities are not in training or education or employment. This is also followed by those that are between the ages of 25 and also 34 years old. And majority of these are female as well. And interestingly, we've also found that there was 35% of these youth which consists of graduates. And some of these graduates also studied with the Northwest University, but due to socioeconomic challenges, they are unable to find employment. And in terms of the race, majority was Black youth or participants. We only had one individual who was white. And we also wanted to see in terms of the language diversity as well, because in terms of developing the intervention, we needed to know what languages are there or what languages exist among these youth, because in some instances we also had to probe especially when we did the focus group, we had to probe in some of the South African indigenous languages, because some of the youth were not familiar with the English terms that we were using as well. In terms of the findings of the study, we asked them if they were familiar with the term information literacy. There was a bit of familiarity that was indicated among this youth. 79% indicated that they were familiar, but once again, we had to probe to get these findings. And these were also, the findings from the questionnaire were also corroborated from those that we received from the focus group as well. In terms of information access channels, we wanted to find out which channels are they using on a daily basis to access information. And majority of them indicated the internet, which basically means that this community, based on our analysis, it shows that they don't have diverse or access to libraries that they can access credible information from. And some mentioned Google as well, of which a part of our training included searching Google ethically, as well as identifying fake news or misinformation as well. In terms of the types of information that they mostly access on a daily basis, most of them, since these people or the youth is unemployed, they mostly try to search or access information on employment opportunities to address their socioeconomic challenges, and also information on educational information, because these youth also indicated that they would like to study further as well. And some also indicated that they search for information on news, on weather, current affairs, and also political information as well. And we also asked them how confident are they in searching for information, or how confident are they in terms of their information literacy skills. And majority indicated that they are mostly comfortable in using search engines such as Google, which in a way confirms that there is a gap in terms of them using information that is credible, or platforms, or their awareness of platforms that are credible as well. And a larger majority also indicated that they are also confident in finding information for job-related initiatives. And however, based on the feedback from the focus group, one participant indicated that they are not certain whether the information that they find especially on Google, whether it's credible or not. And that also gave us, an opportunity for us to go ahead with the intervention that we developed to address the gaps that were evident. And in conclusion, we found that there were gaps in terms of information literacy skills among the youth. And we recommend that there should be policy or frameworks developed to address these gaps. And we also recommend that information literacy should be taught at a basic education level, because even though we had graduates among the participants who are currently the NEET, not in education, training, or employment, some of them, even though they have gone through a higher education system, they are still lacking information literacy skills. And also, we recommend that there should be capacity building and professional development or qualification of librarians. Reason being that this type of youth in our communities, most of them rely on public libraries. And some of them echoed that some of their public librarians are not really qualified librarians, which also create disparities in terms of what these librarians can offer to these youth in those public libraries. And we recommend that there should be partnerships between academic libraries and also public libraries as well, so that there could be more programs or projects of this nature that can be developed to address the gaps or socioeconomic challenges that are experienced by this type of group of users, the NEET. And we also recommend that libraries, whether public libraries or academic libraries, should also, in terms of community engagement, because this project is actually a community engagement project with a research element. So it's basically a participatory action research where we aim to address social ills while also conducting research at the same time. So we also recommend that libraries should take up on a role of engaged scholarship as well in addressing social ills, not only writing about these problems, but also going to the ground to solve these problems with the communities as well. And we also lastly recommend that there should be improved efforts in embedding information literacy into higher educational system, because you know, this is something that has been on the table for quite a long time. Based on experience, quite a number of librarians are still struggling to embed information literacy into the curriculum. So we need to develop those interventions to get buy-in from our institution to ensure that we eventually embed this onto our curriculum. And lastly, this project, since it's a science shop project, it was funded by the South African National Research Foundation and the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement, and also the Science and Innovation Department in South Africa. And I thank you.
Thank you. We can make also questions if any person interested to ask about the paper. No question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Muhammad Safi from Egypt. And his paper's title is The Impact of Multiple Sources of Information on the Level of Concentration Among Egyptian University Students, an inductive study to reduce the phenomenon of information dispersion. Dr. Safi is currently a lecturer at Information Science at the Raya University, Albania, Egypt. He specialized in information technologies and have scientific and professional experience in the field of search engine and information retrieval systems. He has a Doctor of Philosophy of Information Science, Minya University, Almenia, Egypt, first class honors Master of Information Science and the Bachelor of Information Science. Please, go ahead.
شكرا دكتور شوقي. الحقيقة أنا يعني سعيد جدا بوجودي في مؤتمر علمي متميز النسخة الثالثة منه في أفريقيا 2024. كمان حابب يعني أشكر اللجنة المنظمة للمؤتمر على الجهود المبذولة في إن المؤتمر يخرج بالنسخة المتميزة دي أو الشكل المتميز. الحقيقة أنا حبيت أعرض الورقة بتاعتي باللغة العربية لأن لها علاقة مباشرة بعينة موجودة في المجتمع المصري وهم طلاب الجامعات المصرية. دراستي جت بعنوان تأثير تعدد مصادر المعلومات على مستوى التركيز لدى طلاب الجامعات المصرية، دراسة استقرائية للحد من ظاهرة التشتت المعلوماتي. الحقيقة أن في مشكلة وفي معضلة كبيرة جدا بتواجهنا في عصر المعلوماتية أو في العصر الرقمي بشكل عام، بتتعلق بالتوازن المعلوماتي. وفي الحقيقة برضو أن مشكلة التوازن المعلوماتي هي مشكلتين في بعض، مش مشكلة واحدة. المشكلة الأولى بتواجهنا في حالة شح المعلومات أو ندرة المعلومات، ودي بتظهر في المجتمعات المهمشة أو في المجتمعات النائية أو اللي في صعوبة في أنهم يوصلوا للمعلومات. المشكلة دي بتحد من اتخاذ قرارات سليمة أو قرارات صائبة ومستنيرة، كمان بتحد من المشاركة المجتمعية الفعالة. المشكلة الثانية اللي بتظهر لنا من خلل التوازن المعلوماتي هي مشكلة العبء المعلوماتي الزائد أو مشكلة الإرهاق الزائد للمعلومات، ودي بينتج عنها إما اتخاذ قرارات غير صائبة أو أني بيعزف الجمهور أو المستفيدين عن الاستفادة من المعلومات بشكل كامل. أبرز الفئات اللي بتواجه مشكلة العبء المعلوماتي أو التشتت المعلوماتي الزائد هم طلبة الجامعات المصرية، بالإضافة إلى المنصات التعليمية وبالإضافة إلى الكتب الدراسية والمحتوى العلمي اللي بيدرسوه. بيشوفوا بيواجهوا فيضان من المعلومات على السوشيال ميديا أو على مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي. المشكلة دي بتخلي طلبة الجامعات المصرية أو طلبة الجامعات بشكل عام في دايرة غير متناهية من الإرهاق والتشتت الذهني. مشكلة الدراسة بتتلخص في أن طلاب الجامعات المصرية بيواجهوا تحدي كبير جدا في الحفاظ على التركيز وسط وفرة المعلومات المتنوعة، بدءا من المعلومات التقليدية من كتب ومجلات وأشكال تقليدية لوعية المعلومات، وصولا للمحتوى الرقمي والمنصات التعليمية الرقمية. المشكلة دي بتعيق إبداع الطالب وبتعيق إن هو يركز بشكل كامل وواعي وأنه يبدع في تحقيق مستوى دراسي متميز. بالإضافة أن مفيش دراسات عربية قوية في الجزئية المتعلقة بالتوازن المعلوماتي، وده كان سبب رئيسي من أسباب بحث هذه الفجوة البحثية. الحقيقة الدراسة لها أهمية على المستوى العلمي والعملي. من أبرز أهميات الدراسة أنها بتساعد مجتمع الباحثين في سد الثغرة البحثية المتعلقة بموضوع التوازن المعلوماتي. كمان بتقدم عرض جديد لمفهوم التوازن المعلوماتي وبيان كلا جانبيه من شح توازن من شح المعلومات والعبء المعلوماتي الزائد. الدراسة كمان بتساعد في فهم ظاهرة التشتت المعلوماتي وتطوير استراتيجيات فعالة للحد من هذه المشكلة. كمان الدراسة بتساعد من خلال التوصيات اللي بتقدمها على تقديم مجموعة من الإرشادات لتحسين مستوى التركيز لدى طلاب الجامعات المصرية وتحصيلهم الأكاديمي. الأهمية الأخيرة أن الدراسة بتساعد على خلق بيئة تعليمية أكثر إيجابية وصحية للطلاب. أهداف الدراسة تتلخص أهداف الدراسة في فهم العلاقة بين تعدد مصادر المعلومات وتنوعها ومستويات التركيز لدى طلاب الجامعات، إزالة الغموض عن مفهوم التوازن المعلوماتي وبيان مفهوم شح المعلومات وزخم المعلومات، بيان ما إذا كانت التشتت ونقص المعلومات ده ليه تأثير بكمية المعلومات ولا لنوعية المعلومات وعمقها تأثير على موضوع التشتت. قياس مدى إدراك الطالب الجامعي أصلاً إنه بيقع في مشكلة العبء المعلوماتي الزائد من عدمه. استكشاف الاستراتيجيات اللي بيستخدمها طلبة الجامعات في فهم والتعامل مع مشكلة العبء المعلوماتي أو التشتت المعلوماتي الزائد. طرح عدد من الاستراتيجيات الحديثة للتعامل مع مشكلة التشتت المعلوماتي. تساؤلات الدراسة. الدراسة جت للإجابة على تساؤل رئيسي، وهو ما تأثير تعدد مصادر المعلومات على مستوى التركيز لدى طلاب الجامعات المصرية. وعدد من التساؤلات الفرعية أبرزها: هل هناك تأثير مباشر أو غير مباشر لتعدد مصادر المعلومات وتنوعها على مستوى التركيز لدى طلاب الجامعات المصرية؟ ولو في أي تأثير فما مستوى هذا التأثير إن وجد؟ إيه هي طبيعة وعمق المعلومات؟ وهل لعمق المعلومات وطبيعتها تأثير أم إن كمية المعلومات فقط هي اللي بتسبب مشكلة تشتت المعلومات؟ هل هناك علاقة بين المستوى الدراسي واستراتيجيات التركيز والبحث عن المعلومات وطرق التقييم النقدي للمعلومات عند الطلاب؟ إيه هي أكثر مصادر المعلومات استخداماً عند طلاب الجامعات المصرية؟ إيه هي الاستراتيجيات الفعالة اللي بيستخدمها الطلاب دول عشان يحدوا من مشكلة التشتت المعلوماتي؟ ما مدى ملائمة هذه الاستراتيجيات لنوعية المعلومات وطبيعة المهمة الدراسية أو البحثية؟ مصطلحات الدراسة. بنواجه 3 مصطلحات في الدراسة. المصطلح الأول وهو العبء المعلوماتي الزائد أو الانفورميشن اوفرلود، ودي الحالة اللي بتواجه المستفيد لما بيخضع إلى أو بيقابل كمية كبيرة جدا من المعلومات، خصوصا في البحث على الإنترنت بمصطلحات عامة وشائعة. المصطلح الثاني شح المعلومات، والمصطلح بيشير إلى الحالة اللي بيفتقد فيها المستفيد إلى الوصول إلى المعلومات الكافية لاتخاذ قرار مناسب. التوازن المعلوماتي، والتوازن المعلوماتي هي الحالة المعرفية المثلى للمستفيد، وتعتبر نقطة فاصلة بين شح المعلومات وبين زخم المعلومات. خلالها المستفيد بيشعر بالرضا والاكتفاء، وإن المعلومات المتحصل عليها كافية لسد رغباته، إشباع رغباته المعلوماتية. منهجية الدراسة. الدراسة اعتمدت على المنهج الوصف التحليلي كونه أهم يعني مناهج البحث العلمي في دراسة مثل هذه الظواهر. اقتصر مجتمع الدراسة على طلاب الجامعات المصرية الحكومية والخاصة والأهلية والمعاهد والجامعات الدولية. اعتمدت الدراسة على العينة العشوائية البسيطة وأداة الاستبانة للتحقق من فرضيات وأسئلة الدراسة. خطوات إجراء الدراسة: تم بناء استبانة لقياس درجة التشتت لدى طلاب الجامعات المصرية من خلال الرجوع إلى الأدبيات السابقة والنقاط البحثية المتعلقة بالموضوع. محاور الاستبانة: تكونت الاستبانة من 6 محاور، أبرزها محور بيقيس مستوى التشتت لدى الطلاب، محور بيقيس مدى قدرة الطلاب على تقييم مصادر المعلومات والتقييم النقدي للمعلومات، ومحاور أخرى لقياس استراتيجيات التركيز واستراتيجيات البحث عن المعلومات. تم تحكيم الاستبانة من خلال لجنة متخصصة من أساتذة علماء المكتبات والمعلومات وعلماء النفس. تم نشر الاستبانة من خلال البريد الإلكتروني ومن خلال السوشيال ميديا، من خلال فيسبوك، مجموعات موجود عليها قرابة 1,100,000 طالب من طلاب الجامعات المصرية. تم تحليل الاستبانة إحصائياً من خلال برنامج SPSS النسخة 26 كان حوالي 822 مشارك من الطلاب والطالبات من حوالي 31 جامعة مصرية حكومية وخاصة وأهلية، وكانت جميع الاستبيانات صالحة للتحليل الإحصائي. الدراسة توصلت إلى عدد من النتائج كان أبرزها إن في نسبة كبيرة جداً من طلاب الجامعات المصرية عندهم ضبابية في فهم موضوع التشتت المعلوماتي الزائد والتعامل مع كميات ودفعات كبيرة جداً من المعلومات، وده بيظهر أن هناك خلل واضح في عملية التوازن المعلوماتي. من العوامل المسببة لهذا التشتت كانت شبكة الإنترنت والسوشيال ميديا. حوالي 97% من طلاب الجامعات المصرية بيقضوا فترة من 3 ل 6 ساعات في استخدام مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي. من بعض النتائج أيضاً أن حوالي 88% من طلاب الجامعات المصرية لا يكتفون بمصدر واحد للمعلومات، وأن 12% فقط يروا أن مصدر واحد للمعلومات كافي لتحقيق أغراض الدراسة والوصول إلى المعلومات المناسبة. كذلك التحليل الإحصائي بيظهر أن أكثر مصادر المعلومات اللي بيعتمد عليها الطلاب هي مصادر المعلومات النصية الرقمية، تليها مصادر المعلومات الرقمية المرئية أو الفيديو. في المرتبة الثالثة بتيجي مصادر المعلومات التقليدية الورقية، وفي المرتبة الأخيرة مصادر المعلومات الرقمية السمعية. من نتائج الدراسة كذلك أن هناك ضعف واضح في الاستراتيجيات اللي بيعتمد عليها طلاب الجامعات المصرية في تقليل التشتت، واعتمادهم على استراتيجيات تقليدية للحفاظ على التركيز من خلال التعرض لكميات كبيرة من المعلومات. من النتائج كذلك قلة خبرة وضعف طلاب الجامعات المصرية في البحث عن المعلومات وفي طرق التقييم النقدي للمعلومات. من نتائج الدراسة كذلك أن كلما زاد المستوى الدراسي للطلاب كلما زاد لديهم مستوى التشتت المعلوماتي وقل لديهم التقييم النقدي لمصادر المعلومات. في الوقت ذاته بيّنت النتائج أن كلما زاد عدد مصادر المعلومات زاد مستوى التشتت لدى طلاب الجامعات المصرية. أبرز التوصيات التي تنادي بها الدراسة أن على مؤسسات التعليم العالي تنفيذ دورات تدريبية حول كيفية التعامل مع كميات كبيرة من المعلومات، وتثقيف الطلاب بشكل يؤهلهم لمواجهة الكم الهائل من المعلومات. على الطلاب كذلك اتباع استراتيجيات حديثة للحد من التشتت المعلوماتي من خلال إدخال تقنيات لإدارة الوقت وتنظيم المهام زي تقنيات البومودورو المتبعة في أغلب المؤسسات الثقافية. على الطلاب كذلك تحسين مهارات البحث والاسترجاع المعلوماتي من خلال استشارة المتخصصين وأمناء المكتبات والمعلومات في المؤسسات البحثية التابعين لها. على الطلاب كذلك التدريب على التقييم النقدي للمعلومات والتعرف على السبل الحديثة للتحقق من جودة المعلومات ومن المصادر المناسبة دون المصادر غير المناسبة. شكرا لحضراتكم على حسن الاستماع.
شكرا دكتور محمد. هل في أسئلة للدكتور محمد؟ أنا شخصيا معجب بالمصطلحات اللي قالها، التوازن المعلوماتي والتشتت المعلوماتي، ولأن عاوز يزود مصطلح جديد وهو فلترة المعلومات. مشكلة المعلومات دلوقتي في الإنترنت إن إحنا بنحط أي سؤال أو أي ترم أي مصطلح فبيطلع لي مئات الآلاف من الإجابات، فأنا عاوز أعمل فلتريشن للإجابات دي كلها عشان أقدر أوصل للكور انفورميشن اللي بيديني الإجابات اللي أنا عايزها. أعتقد دي إن شاء الله بكرة عندنا بحث الجلسة الأولى هنناقش هذا الكلام باستفاضة. ونبين القواعد المعلومات الحديثة ازاي بتتناول فلترة المعلومات. شكرا. متشكرين. Next paper we have two authors also. Dr. Alice Olgi Odo and Dr. Brenda Van Vee. The paper titled Exploring Digital Competence Among the Graying Population Scoping Review. Please come to the floor. The paper discussed the trends in emerging technologies like the use of ChatGPT and AI have given rise to certain requirements necessary for the use and benefit of the technologies. However, certain individuals, like the graying population, which mean older adults, find themselves periphery of the technology revolution. Dr. Alice is a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Information Science, the School of Information Technology, University of Pretoria. And Dr. Brenda is currently a senior academic in the EBIT faculty at the University of Pretoria. Previous position includes the head of LIS, the IIE, and the Dean of Research at the IIE. Please.
All right. Good day, colleagues. I will say a few things before I start the paper. So this particular paper comes from an ongoing project from my postdoctoral work. So our work is centered on bridging the 4IR Great Digital Divide using different approaches, okay? So when ICL conference came on, and I said, why not? This is like a perfect opportunity to talk about Great Digital Divide. And who else would be the best person to work with other than Dr. Brenda, a very good person in the field.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure by now most people will be wondering what is Great Digital Divide. I also wondered what was Great Digital Divide. When I was first invited to do the project by my supervisor, Prof. Ina, I thought it has to do with just gray literature. Of course, I was wrong. And then I get to realize it's something to do with older adults, which is why we have gray digital divide. Okay, anyway, now to the real thing. So in this paper, we try to explore digital competencies among the graying population, which of course are also called older adults, seniors, elderly, whatever term you want to call them. The thing is that in our society here in Africa, when we talk about digital literacy or literacy, all we think about is the younger ones or the adults. We tend to forget about the older adults. Aging doesn't mean you are condemned to death or your life is over. We need to put them into consideration. This is causing a lot of havoc in their life. They are facing so many challenges. The fact that you are retired. Sorry? Are you hearing me well?
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
beautiful.
Go ahead.
Okay, the fact that you are retired doesn't mean your life is over. There is so much more being an adult. Getting old is a normal process in life. Just the way we are all born, we learn to walk, eat, do what we need to do. So also is getting old. It's a process that everyone needs to go through, if you are lucky, because it's not everyone that gets the opportunity to be old and gray. So it's a blessing to be old. Okay, Having said that, we need to include our older ones in the society, in our policy. Because the world has moved to digital platform. Everything we do is digitized. Getting old is a hard process in its own right. Because just as when you are growing up, you start to learn so many things, and your brain starts functioning differently. When you are growing old, it's like the opposite. Physically, some of the activities you learn to do, you wouldn't be able to do them. Cognitive-wise, you start declining. Instead of uphill process, is a downhill process. So that alone is challenging to older people. Now we're in the digitized world. What then happened to the older ones? You are already trying to cope with what is happening with your life, things you are able to do before, you can't do it anymore. You are able to run up the stairs, suddenly you need somebody to hold you. You can see that before you sit down, you need probably, we hold you back before you sit down. Then now we are now getting so many complicated form of technology that you now have to grapple with. Sorry, I'm trying to bring your mind to what I want to talk about, okay? Think about a grandfather. I think I said this to somebody else outside briefly when we were having coffee. Think about a grandfather thinking, oh, I wish there's a microphone. I don't want to say one place. I want to be talking. When I talk, I want to move around. You don't have a microphone? Okay. Think about a grandfather thinking, oh, I don't know, sorry if I'm saying something beyond your culture here, but I'm sure it's obtainable. Think about a grandfather wanting to give his wife a treat and said, oh, I'm taking you to one of the best restaurants today, this evening, so that you rest and you enjoy yourself. Only for them to get to the restaurant. It's fine, no? Hello? No. Okay, probably from this. Hello? Can you hear me? Is it loud enough? Okay, fine. Sorry, Prof. Let me.
It's okay.
I like talking, probably it's because of teaching.
Yeah, please.
Good. So think about a grandfather thinking of giving his wife, which is a grandmother, also a treat. Taking her to a big restaurant and say, today is your evening, today is your night. And then suddenly having taken their seat, and then they will tell them, oh, sorry, you have to make your reservation online before coming here. And unfortunately, he doesn't know anything to do with digital device or digital technology. What happens to him? Do you know how heartbroken he will be? Or how stupid he will feel before his wife? Or think about older people that need to see their doctors and they have to make appointments online. And they have no access to those technologies, nor do they even know how to use it. What happened to them? Does that mean their life is over? With that, let me start my representation, ladies and gentlemen. So, we are looking at exploring digital competencies among the growing population using a scoping review. We have to use a scoping review because it's part of an ongoing research project. So, what better way to look at, to have an overview of all research that have been done in this field? This is the overview. We have the introduction, the contextualization, research design, knowledge synthesis, themes, concerns, and conclusion. Like I earlier said, we said technology is on the rise. Just the same way, population of the older adult is on the rise. One of the reasons why we have more older adults these days is based on the fact that we have better health technology, better health services, right? So it tends to elongate people's life better than before. So now that we're having older adults, we don't just abandon them and push them on one side and say, your days are over. No, the government have to put into policy what happens to these people. How do they take care of themselves? Some people, we might say in Africa that you have families that take care of older adults. What happens to those that don't have families? How do you help them to be independent, to live independently, to take care of themselves, to get access to the basic health they need? From where I'm coming from, I'm doing my postdoc in South Africa, quite okay, but I was born and raised in Nigeria. So many older people are being scammed out of their pension money. Why? Because they don't know how to use digital technology for banking. I have a very good example. My own mother was scammed. We always send money to her, okay, to take care of herself and everything. And she has her normal banking stuff. She went to see one of the younger people there and believed, because of her age, we respect her enough and give her the right answers. Every time money is being sent to her, she goes to him and he say, "Oh, no, ma'am, there's no money in your account." And he'll use her own digital device and transfer the money to his own account. This is just because she's my mother. What happened to those people that are so far? They are so ashamed to say this happened to them. What happened to them? I'm being very passionate about this because I know this is information specialists here we have here. So it's something we need to think about so that when we find ourselves among policy makers, the society should start thinking about how to take care of the older ones. Whether you like it or not, you and I tomorrow will be old. If we don't take care of our tomorrow, who will? We need to start taking care of our tomorrow today. When you take care of those that are older than us, tomorrow the society will think about us the same way, okay? So they say when you do good, it comes round back to you. And in this situation, we're talking about ourselves. There is the need for inclusivity in our generation. Even the UNESCO and AfLIA says everybody has the right to information, not just the right to information, but everyone has the right to right of expressions, okay? Now, if these people are excluded, we are denying them of their basic human right. Am I wrong? Talk to me, guys. It's just like an interactive class. Am I right? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm not giving you a lecture.
It's okay.
All right. So all this, what I've mentioned so far, it ends up leaving the older generation at the brink, and they are faced with everyday life. They are faced with everyday life activity. They find challenges in everyday life activities. For instance, these days we see that even if you have to use a vacuum cleaner, it's digitized. If you want to make a coffee with all this sophisticated coffee machine, it's digitized. For someone that doesn't know anything about it, an old person, how does he use that? I remember a saying that someone felt, oh, he has really made it in life, and he decided to get an iPad for his mom. And said, "Mom, you can be calling me using this." And guess what? He only went there and saw the mom using the iPad as a cutting board for her vegetables. Yeah, it's so funny, right? But if we are able to create a situation whereby all people come together and they learn how to use information online, even to share information, it will make our life more easier. You don't have to be running every time, "Oh, I need to go and check whether my mommy is doing well or she's not doing well." Because if she's able to use the technology very well, she will be able to send a message to the doctor and say, "I am not feeling this way." And if, of course, she has graduated to the use of all these wearable technologies, the doctor can easily check whether her heart rate is okay. And then, even from afar, you'll be able to detect what needs to be done for her. And then they can come, probably if the heart rate is going too high, very fast or high, they can send an ambulance right away to get her into the emergency unit, right? But if this is not in place, what happens? So many old people are dying, they are losing their income. Why? Because they are left out of this digital technology, digital revolution that is ongoing. So we must have something to do so that tomorrow we have a better life, and then even the older adults, they will not be left at the fringe of the whole society. This, of course, is something that has to do with the exclusion and isolation from the society. And of course, it became very apparent during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. So many older adults have to be taken away from the society just to keep them safe. Unfortunately, it left some of them depressed. And when you are mentally depressed, it can lead to health issues, even to death. This can be corrected because the mistake has been done in the past, but we can correct this in the future. In any case, what competencies are required in this 4IR, the fourth industrial revolution? So this study explores recent research publication trends addressing the great digital divide. What's the purpose and aim of this study? It's to gauge the coverage of recent peer-reviewed articles that give clear indication of the struggles older adults go through using technology, as well as their level of skills and competence with technologies. The central question is, how competent are the growing populations? It's funny because we don't really have a specific years that literature says this is when you become an older adult. Some people will say, once you are in your 50, you are already older adult. Some will say, no, when you are 70 or past 70, you are an older adult. But generally, most literature believe people from their 65 upward are older adults. Okay, so the central question is, how competent are the growing population, which of course I told you from the beginning, I meant older adults, in using digital technology, and to identify gaps in current research and to also recommend future or further researches. So the research question is, number one, how many studies have been conducted between 2015 and 2023 on the great digital divide or digital literacy, the competence or skills in older adults? Research question 2 was, what themes are covered under the great digital divide in the selected years? And the third question is, at what point does the struggle with the use of digital technology become visible? I'm sure out of some of us here, we are struggling with so many technologies, but when you come up, you don't want anybody to say, oh, she's so backward. You always try to, instead of showing to the world that, I don't know how to use it, you're like, no, I'll pass, I'm not going to use it. No, thank you. In reality, the person is ashamed to show he or she cannot use the technology. Have you come across, listen, I'm also gray, so don't think I'm making fun of gray people, right? I'm also gray, you can see I'm gray. But I'm not yet 50 anyway. So, have you come across older adults in your organizations when probably you bring the technology and say, ma'am, sir, please, can you do this? They're like, I'm busy, why don't you just do it for me? It's not as if they are busy. They are ashamed to prove to you that they can't do it. What am I trying to say? We need to have compassion towards our older ones. If we are compassionate towards them, it will help them to learn better. Because we have so much age stereotyping in our society. And because most of these older people feel they are being looked at in a negative light, they shy away from even coming close. They shy away from learning. Learning should be lifelong, not that if you're old, you don't learn anymore. No, it shouldn't be so. As librarians, we need to encourage people. Sorry, it's not everybody is librarian. I'm librarian by proxy. No, by background, I'm a librarian. And I'll still continue to be a librarian, okay? So please, we need to inculcate that attitude of bringing everybody together to learn, not pushing some, no, it's for these people, no, it's not for the other set of people. Most importantly, our older generation, because they are increasing in number. Contextualization. I will try to be very fast, it's like I'm taking so much time. How much time do I have? How much more time do I have? Oh, sir, do I have much time?
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
thank you so much. Contextualization. Growing population. Like I initially said, it has to do with older adults, but depending on the context in which it is being used. Some people look at growing population as the golden ages. Some literature call them the golden ages. Some call them elderly. Some call them seniors. So it depends on the context which it's being used, okay? When you talk about exclusion, it's something that is happening seriously, even in the Western world, when it comes to exclusion. We are talking about exclusion in this context that so many of them, like I initially stated, based on the fact that some are not even exposed to technology from their background. Because they are not exposed to technology, using technology becomes an issue, and they are not aware of what is happening. They have no access to information, how to share information, or even how to create information. So that brings about exclusion for them, right? Some also, based on the fact that they've worked before and they are retired, because of the process of aging, it comes with decline in cognitive abilities, decline in memory. They tend to have memory loss. It comes gradually. And some, because of the aging process, they tend to have these old age illnesses, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer. It affects them. And being that it affects them, they don't recall what they've learned before. Even if they've been working as accountant, using technology and everything, it's hard for them to transfer skills they've learned before to any new technology. When you get old, you are not like a young child. When you give a young child these days, a young child have never used an iPad, but because of the fact that he's used to a phone, without telling the child how to use it, he will manipulate and start bringing out things you don't even know that are there in the mobile device. But for an older person, it's hard. Anything that is complex, thank you so much, I'm not doing it. It's so hard. It's hard going through the process of aging. Then now you are bringing a complex featured mobile device to say you should use. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And that creates a lot of exclusion for them. And for them to be included, they need that required skills, the competency. It's not all about them opening and using a mobile technology or any technological device, but it's all about them not just the ability to use it, but the knowledge on how to use it and how to get the relevant information they need. If you recall, during the COVID time, the older adults that are able to use technologies, they ended up misinforming their peers because they were so gullible, every information they saw online, they believed it. And you know, older people, they tend to believe their peers. When they have face-to-face encounter with their peers, whatever they tell them, they believe. And it brings about so much.
Rallis, 5 minutes.
Oh, sorry, sir. Maybe I'm too passionate, that's why I keep on talking, I'm so sorry. All right, let me quickly. So the research design was scoping review, and then we have peer-reviewed articles covering grade digital divide in the older adult articles in English published between 2015 and 2023. And the context of the discussion was on grade digital divide, digital competency, and the discussion includes digital literacy and skills in older adults. So the search strategy, we use a database like Sage, Google Scholar, Scopus, and Web of Science with the following terms you see on screen. Then the inclusion criteria, we use studies that are connected with the concept of digital divide in older adults, great digital divide, inclusion and exclusion, digital skills, digital literacy or competency in older adults. And studies only done in English were those studies that we used. And then the exclusion criteria involve studies involving gray literature or studies that involve younger people. We did not use that, and we didn't use studies that older adults are below 60 years. Knowledge synthesis, the study sought to chart studies covering great digital divide and digital divide in older adults with articles in English and published between 2015 and 2023. So data was extracted from 60 selected studies in line with the purpose of addressing the research questions. They were tabulated and summarized into themes. Findings and discussion. One of the affected populace of the society is known as the graying population, and they are left out of technological revolution due to certain traits like personal fears, declining health, unwillingness to use technology, absence of knowledge and skills in the use of technology. These were the results of the work, the Prisma chart. These are the identified studies and the methods used. And we got 8 themes ranging from digital health, digital fluency, internet use, great digital divide, and digital competence. The findings allude to the phenomenon of declined use of technology and the internet of older people's use of technology. There is an overwhelming evidence that older generations are excluded from the affordance of technology innovations. Variant factors such as country of origin, socio-political and socio-economical factors may impact trends. Dangers of great digital divide, stereotyping older generations, misinformation and disinformation, safety and security, exacerbating divide and exclusion. Research gaps identified were to develop an empirical, reliable findings for sustainable bridging of the divide, long-term implementation of support programs for older and graying generation, more research interventions. And the conclusion include a more interdisciplinary approach to researching the concerns around digital inclusion of graying population, and more research is needed on practical and instructional approaches for endorsing digital literacy in older adults. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I like your style of acting, your presentation. It's better than any information science. Also, thank you for the bunch of encouraging for the old people, including me. Is there any question for Dr. Alice? Yes, please.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Olu, for that informative presentation. Mine, I think it's just, I don't know, a comment. I think there are also underlying competencies that are also relevant. For example, if someone is not able to read illiteracy, I think that can also contribute to not having digital competencies. And also the language barrier. Most of digital tools or resources that are available there or technological devices are operated in English. Most of the elderly people, they still rely on their mother tongue or their indigenous languages. So I think that this can also, the study can also, recommend that, I would say embedding indigenous languages so that we can accommodate the elderly people so that they can, build capacity in terms of digital competencies. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Thank you. I did have one question. So in your research, did you come across any promising-looking programs that, or interventions that might support the graying population, asking for a friend, as they say?
Thank you so much. Yes. Recently, I gave a webinar on ASSIST, on Great Digital Divide. And on the webinar, I pointed out that we have some libraries, but mostly in the Western world. Like we have a library in Toronto, Canada. They have this, they created a safe space for the older ones. And this safe space they created is in such a way that older adults within the community, they come together using digital story to learn more about digital devices. And in Cuba, I can't remember the right name of the town. What they did is that they collaborated between the hospital, doctors, and then the public libraries. And then they created a space whereby doctors will come once in a while to give a talk to the older ones concerning their health issues. And then the librarians will now teach the older ones how to search for relevant information based on whatever they are going through, So it created this kind of awareness within the older generation, and then they always look forward to coming there and then exchange information concerning what they are going through, and then the best way of taking care of certain situation. And even in the United States of America, they've been very intentional concerning their older adults. That's why right from the 60s, they try to provide guidelines on how to create specific services for the elderly in the community. So those services are specifically meant for the older adults, so that when they come into the library, they make sure that they have equipment that the older ones can easily use, this kind of magnifying monitors with light that doesn't have to disturb their eyes because their vision is already dimming. So they have specialized librarians that help them to take care of such things. I hope this answers your question, sir. Thank you, too.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Alice, for your passionate presentation. My name is Maropene from the Northwest University in South Africa. Mm-hmm. At the Northwest University, you just saw from the previous study, we focused on the youth. Maybe from your presentation, we'll get some programs and go out and focus on the older generation.
Please, that would be so nice.
Yeah, so just a quick one. The mother and the money taken, have you done anything about that regarding this issue?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So what happened in that instant, since we are very far from where our mother was, so we gently, not like rudely admonished her, we gently encouraged her to go to the banking hall. So it was while she was able to get to the banking hall, and we told her what to tell the bankers, that certain amount of money has been deposited in her account on different occasions. So and she was still insisting, no, she's going to that young chap to help her look at it. We're like, no. Go to the right source. The bankers will be able to trace wherever the money, whatever happened to the money. And while she was in the bank, they now traced that all the money sent, the young man transferred it to his account. And that was how there was intervention, and then he was able to return some, not all, because he spent some. Yeah, so that was what happened. And since then, we make sure that she goes to the bank to get her information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other question?
Oh, two. That must be interesting.
Yes. The last one.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Ceci.
Okay.
First of all, I thank you very much about your passion behind the study. It's it's a privilege that I listen to you. Second of all, I want to ask how we could encourage the older, especially in our digital generation and our youth generation, how we can stop the stigma to them and encourage them to not be embarrassed and ask for help, because this is the very first main and core step to them to take our help to them, because as you say, we will become older,
Yeah.
and we will need the other generation help. Thank you very much for your listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So some of the intervention that really stood out from the studies, number one is still library intervention.
Yeah.
Creating, just the way I said before, creating this safe space. Now, it's not enough creating this safe space, because it's one thing to take a horse to the river, it's another thing to make the horse to drink the water. So you have to create programs that appeal to them. You know, older adults, it's not what appeals to you that appeals to them. You have to look for programs that appeal to them. When you can get programs that appeal to them, then you bring out such programs. The best way older adults learn easily is when you use intergenerational approach. Let me explain what I meant by intergenerational approach. Using younger ones that know how to use technology, it appeals to them. How? When you have a family, you see that grannies are so attached to their grandchildren. That's why most often you go to a very, very old granny and you see the way she can play games on the phone, even more than you do. How did she learn how to play the game? Because she wants to interact with her young grandchild. So she follows the grandchild to learn how to play the games. So if you can get family members that are very good with technology, if it's in a family setting, you have a child that knows how to use technology, you can coach the child on how to teach granny how to use the technology. And the granny will readily accept it because she knows she's not being judged by the child.
You want to take their passion and the relationship between the granny and the...
Yes, it's opened up their mind to do that. That's one of the approaches.
They will never be ashamed?
No, not of course. Oh, no way. They are not ashamed with their baby.
Because they love their
love
grandchildren more than the children.
Exactly. The love and trust and confidence make them to open up, and then they learn how to do it.
This is a smart...
exactly. And
because you are a passion personality, so you know where to go. Thank you so much for your passion.
Thank you so much.
I like you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, last one.
Last one.
Thank you, Doc, for a lovely presentation.
Thank you.
So as you were speaking, I thought of the gray-headed ones. Some of them, we live with them. Some of them we are within our communities. But then some, we work with them.
Yeah, ne?
So how do we bridge that gap whereby you have an experienced gray-headed librarian who's not tech-savvy, yet you have a younger librarian who is tech-savvy? So how do we bridge that gap within our work environment? Yes, I'm comfortable teaching my mom. I'm comfortable teaching my neighbor. How do you teach someone who's been in the institution more than you?
Okay. Before I answer that, let me ask you a question too. Sorry. Let me ask you a question. How do you teach your mom?
At least my mom is a bit receptive.
Calm down, girl. I'm sorry. I'm using an informal. Calm down, girl. How do you teach your mom?
I take her through the steps.
With patience.
Patience,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to remind her all the time.
Because she's your mom.
No, because she forgets.
Beautiful. That is the thing. don't get cross with her. You know, she's just growing old is like becoming a child all over. The way you have patience with your young one, you should also have patience with an old one. Forget the fact that she gave back to you. In the same vein, if you find yourself in a work environment, I know it's not easy. Most often the younger ones, they get so impatient and like, but ma, you're supposed to know this. And it hurts them. It hurts them because they become self-conscious. So it's very hard for them to open up. For you to be able to do that with your older colleague, you must show them compassion, understanding what they are going through. Don't show it to their face that you don't know this and you're old. No. With love, sorry, I think I just have to use love. Okay. With love, you'll be able to guide them through. Once they know they can have this confidence and trust you, they will open up in learning. I assure you.
Thank
Serious.
you.
Thank you.
The last speaker and
Thank you so much.
for Bishkosha, Mr. Ahmed Ghazi. Mr. Ahmed has a master's degree in quality management 2014 from the Arab Academy for Science and Technology and Maritime Transport, ASMT. Institute, the title, The Role of Information Literacy and Instruction Quality in Delivering User Satisfaction. He's currently an event organizer where he plans, manages, and executes various types of events for clients in the cultural sector. Please, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shawky. Good evening, everybody, and welcome as a staff of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. I would like to welcome you to the ICIL Africa here at Bibliotheca Alexandrina. I'm really excited to be here in this great event. And despite the other presentation with Dr. Alice, I will go the other side and focus on Gen Z, Generation Z.
Yeah.
She was focusing on the elder citizens, and I will go the other way. Actually, I need to talk about the evolution of the libraries all over the centuries. So, over the centuries, libraries have proven the ability to adapt to changes and challenges of evolution. Always been a beacon for disseminating knowledge and embracing innovation. But recently, with the trending aspect that been having the artificial intelligence thing, libraries that will not keep up with these developments may face the risk of becoming obsolete. And I could that could face extinction. Why not? So we must let go of our principles and embrace new elements to keep up with the evolution, which it's pretty fast. And that's in my presentation. I'll be talking about Green Library. As you can see in your program, there is a from missing. It's from Green Library to Green Information. And as Africans, I guess we have the best elements for eco-friendly materials that we can use in our libraries to be more green. So first, I will start with the meaning of a Green Library. And Green Library is not only a physical change that we should do to our establishments, but also a kind of community awareness. So and that's what I'm gonna be actually presenting here. I will divide my presentation in two elements: the physicality of the libraries and how to transform it to green, and the information literacy and how we should inject the principles of green information to the users. So the sustainability and libraries, as we know that libraries are not only books, so the change of evolution and sustainability of the idea itself and how to make the library in nowadays terms more cool and attractive to the youngers, specifically to the Gen Z. So librarians and users has to work together for a better information. And here we come to the first step actually of transitioning to a green library. And we will not choose a better way than the quality management to start to figure out how to assess, planning, implement, and evaluate the whole plan of green library. Of course, there are principal ways physically to change in our library. Actually, here in Bibliotheca Alexandrina, we started to, like 5-6 years ago, we switched all the regular bulbs that consume and eat much energy to LED lighting. And that was one of the innovative first step towards a green library. Smart thermostats, optimizing temperature automatically. And this, we have a term for it called passive technology. The passive technology is how to use the automated technology like the HVAC, or the heat, ventilation, and air conditioning automated system that regulates temperature without the interfere of human. And this is a really crucial part that it may threaten our jobs itself in the future, as everything will be automated. So this is, and I will come later for the passive technology thing. Also the natural ventilation, that most of the old libraries didn't keep in mind that they should have a ventilation system that depends on nature more than air conditioning. So we come here to the sustainable building materials. We're still in the physical part. As you can see, recycling wood that will reduce the deforestation. For example, using the bamboo as a fast-growing renewable material. The solar panel that generate clean energy. And here we come to the waste education management. Managing waste in library is like a book but less papers. We can read, and no one like overdue waste fees. So in the renewable idea that it's not actually new in our continent, in Africa, as I recently checked on a website called Statica, and they mentioned the top countries in using renewable energy. And number one was, anybody knows number one country in Africa using renewable energy? Actually, it was South Africa. Yeah, 10.62 gigabytes. Mm-hmm. And the second country was actually Egypt with 6.7 gigabytes. Do you see the huge difference? So we are familiar with renewable energy anyway, so why we don't use it in our libraries? Also, promoting environmental awareness. And here we start to educate our users by doing community events like cleanup days, unit up with the United Nations and start the international days, specifically for all the days that saves the planet through the workshops and talks. And also digitization and e-resources. And here we'll start to reduce the use of paper and start to go for the e-versions of electronic to reach wider audience that way. They don't have to come to us. And actually in Bibliotheca Alexandrina, we've been using the electronic resources since I came to the library in 2007, actually. And it's been always a great help for users around the country just by a click of a button. And here, I'm giving you an examples of the best green libraries in Africa. According to the AfLIA contest, a yearly contest for the best green libraries in the world, for the past 10 years, unfortunately, there were only 3 libraries that won the contest, actually. One of them, and it was really interesting, the American University Library in Kenya, Nairobi. And the second one, guess where? Also in Nairobi. Anybody from Kenya? Nobody, huh? Okay, so the second one was also the Aga Khan University Library in Kenya, Nairobi. They have the same energy efficient lighting, and they have gardens within the library premises. The library premises. One of the libraries that I found it myself interesting, I had the privilege to visit the Free University Library in Berlin, Germany, in 2017, actually, and they have a really magnificent look and view, and they utilize the passive and active technology. Do you remember the passive technology I've been talking about since 2017, and that's amazing. They have also gardens within the libraries, specifically in the Philological Library over there. But they have one problem that they didn't put it in mind. With the global warming, this year, actually, I was there in June, and the weather in Germany came up to 40 degrees. And as you can see, most of the library is glasses, so it looks like a glass heat. So they were burning inside the library. And for them, 40 degrees is huge, not like us. 40 degrees is nothing. We wear sweaters in 40 degrees here. It's nothing here. So they were really suffering from the temperature. And now we come to the last part, is the information technology part, the community part. And here, the transformation to green information is not easy and not hard, actually. Not easy because it needs actually lots of money to turn into digital collections, and not hard because the new generations are open actually for e-technology more than using physical copies to read and research. And it's our what do you call it? It's our duty actually as librarians to promote reliable data and information on sustainable topics, and to try to inject it also to elder users. Because I guess eventually in the upcoming years, they will not have anything else but using this technology. And this comes the role of librarians in green information for the sustainability practices in libraries to promote environmental awareness. And in Africa itself, we found that the use of eco-friendly material is really high cost. Actually, the resource, we have resources limitations. Also, the access to funds, most of the governmental and non-governmental organizations are not that welcoming to funding institutions. through the eco-friendly materials. Also infrastructure challenges with the limitations that we face. It really threatened the existing of the infrastructures in our library. Yeah, and it's not easy actually to do the awareness for users, especially the trainings. It costs because of using the consultants and the well-professional trainings for such a thing. So there is a real there is a need for more awareness and training on sustainable practices among library staff themselves. Collaborative efforts, librarians can collaborate with local government and NGOs and community organizations. Also, to implement green information is like a strategy session. We have to embrace it and be convinced with it to pass it to the other generations. And I will come back again to the quality management and its beauty in actually measuring the energy saving and digital resources by doing or using the tools of quality management to see where we stand. But measuring the success impact is really simple, and you can find it in your electricity bill at the end by reducing the energy of, for example, by when we've been talking about the changing the bulbs, the regular bulbs to LED, and so on. So at the end, there is a question. I need you all to sleep on it. Can libraries continue their pioneer role despite the challenges of artificial intelligence and information technology? Please sleep on this question and answer it to your libraries. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Is there any questions for the last speaker?
For
yes,
the last speaker.
Dina.
Thank you, Ahmed, for this very interesting presentation. And actually, the issue of green libraries is one of the things that I've been working with AfLIA on since early 2009, was it?
Wow. 9.
Yes, and it's very interesting. But as I always say, you wonder why green libraries are not, the green communities are not very spread, because I always say pollution is cheaper, easier,
Yes.
and economically friendly. So,
Yeah.
and even now they are rethinking the recycling things, and they are reconsidering that the process of the recycling itself is not pollution friendly, and it's expensive. Mm-hmm. So it is our role to reduce the pollution by raising awareness on certain things that we usually do, but at the same time spreading this technology of recycling and the use of solar energy is expensive, and then the water resources and everything needs a lot of resources, and this is why the role stops at awareness raising.
Yes.
Thank you.
I forgot actually to tell you the third library in Africa. I didn't say it, right? According to the AfLIA contest, the green library, it was the Guta Institute Library in South Africa, actually. Hmm. Yeah, in Johannesburg. So these are the only 3 libraries that win the contest of the AfLIA contest for the past 10 years, by the way.
I love the ventilation.
Unfortunately, yeah, we don't
what you
have it
mentioned
here.
concerning the ventilation, because this is easy to implement,
Yes.
and it doesn't need any cost actually, because when you think about the environment before building the library, the building of the library, it will be much easier. But what I see, although we are talking about green libraries and saving the environment, we see new libraries built, but not following any criteria of green community and environment.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay.
Any other question?
Yeah. So I know I'm the last speaker, so everybody is exhausted and tired. And you need to go home. So oh yeah, it's
yeah.
Go ahead.
As I know that the artificial intelligence is more expensive in the energy and take a lot of energy. You say that in the future there will be a green library, right?
No, actually. Yeah.
So, can we do that in our country? Can we afford it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. We can do it. If it can happen anywhere, it can happen here. Why not? We have the resources. We have the mindset, so we can do it, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Any other question? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
We are at the end. We would like to close the session. Is there any general question for any person, please? Okay, we close the session. Thank you.